You know, sometimes life throws you a curveball so wild, so utterly unbelievable, that you can't help but wonder if you're stuck in some twisted reality show. And that's exactly where I found myself not too long ago, caught in a sibling rivalry so toxic it ended up blowing up in the most spectacular, ironic way imaginable. My own sister, the one I grew up with, the one who shared secrets and scraped knees with me, hired private investigators to prove I was a liar. Can you believe it? She was so determined to paint me as some deceitful villain. She went to extreme lengths, only to accidentally expose her own massive fraud. Was I wrong for letting the truth come out, even when it meant shattering our family? Or would you have done the exact same thing in my shoes? Tell me, because I still grapple with it. It all started subtly enough, years ago, after our grandmother passed away. Grandma Eleanor was the matriarch, the glue, the woman who held our sprawling, often fractious, family together. She was also, to put it mildly, quite wealthy. She had built a successful real estate portfolio from the ground up, a testament to her sharp mind and even sharper wit. When she died, it was a massive blow to everyone, not just emotionally, but also, let's be honest, financially for some. My sister, Clara, had always been Grandma's favorite, or at least that's what Clara believed and certainly what she flaunted. Clara was the golden child, the one who could do no wrong in Grandma's eyes, even when she clearly was doing wrong. I, on the other hand, was always a bit more independent, a bit more questioning, which I think Grandma secretly admired, but Clara interpreted as a challenge. Grandma's will was, as expected, a complex document. She had left specific properties and investments to various family members, and a significant portion was to be divided between Clara and me. However, there was a catch, a clause that everyone seemed to overlook but me. Grandma had stipulated that a particular trust, containing a considerable sum of money meant for her grandchildren's education and future, would only be accessible if both Clara and I agreed on its disbursement. If there was a dispute, the funds would remain untouched until both parties reached a consensus, or until a certain age, whichever came first. This was Grandma's way, I believe, of forcing us to communicate, to work together, perhaps to finally bridge the growing chasm between us. But Clara, in her infinite wisdom, saw it as an obstacle and an opportunity. From the moment the will was read, Clara started pushing for immediate access to the trust. She claimed she needed the money for an urgent business investment, a can't miss opportunity that would make us both rich beyond our wildest dreams. Now, Clara had a history of these can't miss opportunities. They usually involved pyramid schemes, dubious start-ups, or wildly overpriced multi-level marketing products. I had fallen for a few of her pitches in our younger days, always ending up poorer and wiser. This time, I was determined to be neither. I told her I wanted to see detailed business plans, financial projections, and independent verification of this supposed gold mine. My skepticism, naturally, infuriated her. She accused me of being jealous, of holding her back, of disrespecting Grandma's legacy. She even hinted that Grandma would be disappointed in my lack of faith. It was classic Clara manipulation. I tried to be patient. I really did. I explained that Grandma's intent for the trust was for our education and future security, not for speculative ventures. I suggested we invest it conservatively, perhaps use portions for master's degrees, or even a down payment on a house, things that would actually build our future, not gamble it away. But Clara wouldn't hear it. She became increasingly aggressive, calling me at all hours, sending scathing emails, even showing up at my apartment unannounced, demanding I sign the papers to release the funds. She'd bring our parents into it, twisting my words, making it sound like I was hoarding money from her, that I was actively trying to ruin her life. My parents, bless their hearts, were often caught in the middle, torn between their two daughters. They usually sided with Clara, though, because she was the louder, more demanding one, and it was often easier to appease her. They'd tell me to just give in for peace, but I couldn't, not this time. The tension escalated to the point where we weren't speaking at all, unless it was through angry text messages or shouted accusations at family gatherings. The trust remained untouched, a symbol of our fractured relationship. Then, one day, I started noticing strange things. My mail seemed to be tampered with. I'd get hang-up calls. Once, I even saw a car parked down the street from my apartment for several hours, with someone seemingly just sitting inside. It was unsettling, but I dismissed it as paranoia. Until, that is, a mutual friend, Sarah, called me, sounding incredibly uncomfortable. Sarah explained that Clara had approached her, asking pointed questions about my finances, my relationships, my work habits. Clara had apparently told Sarah that I was acting erratically, making poor decisions, and that she was concerned for my mental health, and believed I was squandering my inheritance. Sarah, knowing me better, found this suspicious and tipped me off. It immediately clicked: the strange car, the hang-ups, the mail. Clara wasn't just spreading rumors. She was actively investigating me. She truly believed I was hiding something, that I was secretly siphoning off funds or planning some grand scheme to deny her what she felt was rightfully hers. It was absurd, but also deeply hurtful. So that's the situation I was in. My sister, driven by greed and suspicion, was actively trying to dig up dirt on me, to prove I was a liar, to justify her attempts to access the trust without my consent. And I had to make a choice. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause right now and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have confronted her directly? Would you have ignored it? Or would you have played her at her own game? I'm genuinely curious to hear your thoughts. I decided to play her at her own game, but with a twist. I didn't want to actively harm Clara, not initially. I just wanted her to see how foolish and paranoid she was being. So I started subtly observing her. I paid attention to the cars parked near my place, noting their makes and models. I asked Sarah to keep an ear out for any more of Clara's concerns. And then, one afternoon, I received a phone call from an unknown number. The person on the other end was professional, calm, and introduced himself as Mr. Davies, a private investigator. He said he was working on behalf of Clara, and he had some questions about my financial activities. He didn't outright accuse me, but his questions were probing, clearly designed to find inconsistencies or evidence of wrongdoing. My heart pounded, but I kept my voice steady. I played innocent, acted confused, and told him that all my finances were above board and that I had nothing to hide. I even feigned a little offense, suggesting that Clara must be terribly worried about me to go to such lengths. Mr. Davies was polite but persistent. He mentioned that Clara had indicated I was withholding information about some of Grandma's assets, specifically some properties. This was a complete fabrication, but it told me Clara was throwing everything at the wall to see what would stick. After the call, a cold resolve settled over me. Clara wasn't just being difficult. She was actively trying to sabotage me, to discredit me, perhaps even to find a legal loophole to bypass my consent for the trust. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about reputation, about integrity, about family honor. I remembered a small detail from Grandma's will, a very specific clause that mentioned a safety deposit box held at a particular, obscure bank in a neighboring town. It wasn't explicitly for either of us, but rather contained personal effects and some old documents Grandma thought might be useful one day. When I tried to access it after her death, the bank had given me a polite runaround, citing privacy laws and needing more specific documentation, which I hadn't had the time to gather. Clara, to my knowledge, had never even inquired about it. It was a long shot, but I had a hunch. Maybe, just maybe, Grandma, in her infinite foresight, had left some kind of breadcrumb. I spent the next few weeks gathering the necessary legal documents, hiring a lawyer myself just to ensure everything was legitimate. It was costly, but I had a feeling it would be worth it. Finally, armed with court orders and a very patient lawyer, I managed to gain access to Grandma's safety deposit box. Inside, amidst old photographs and faded jewelry, I found a meticulously organized folder labeled Clara's Affairs. My blood ran cold. This wasn't just a breadcrumb, it was a bombshell. The folder contained a stack of documents that detailed an elaborate, years-long scheme perpetrated by Clara. It included forged documents, shell corporations, and meticulously tracked transfers of funds. It appeared Clara had been systematically siphoning money from Grandma's rental properties for years, creating fake tenants, falsifying maintenance records, and diverting rent payments into accounts she controlled. The extent of it was staggering. It wasn't just a few $1,000s. It was hundreds of thousands. And it had been going on long before Grandma's death. Grandma, it seemed, had known. She had been quietly gathering evidence, preparing for the inevitable. The trust clause, the one forcing us to agree, suddenly made perfect sense. It was her way of trying to protect me, and perhaps to give Clara a chance to confess and make amends, without outright exposing her publicly. The discovery hit me like a physical blow. My sister, my own flesh and blood, had been stealing from our grandmother, from our family, for years. And then she had the audacity to hire private investigators to prove I*, was the one lying, the one trying to defraud her. The hypocrisy was breathtaking. I sat there, staring at the documents, feeling a whirlwind of emotions: shock, anger, betrayal, and a strange sense of vindication. Grandma had trusted me implicitly. She had left me the tools to uncover the truth, knowing I would eventually do the right thing. My lawyer, upon reviewing the documents, was stunned. He confirmed their authenticity and the sheer scale of the fraud. He advised me that I had a very strong case, not just for the recovery of the stolen funds, but potentially for criminal charges against Clara. That's when Mr. Davies, the private investigator Clara had hired, called me again. He wanted to set up an in-person meeting, claiming he had some new information he needed to share. I agreed, curious to see what he had dug up, and perhaps how I could use this meeting to my advantage. When we met, Mr. Davies looked uncomfortable. He stammered a bit, avoided eye contact, and finally, after much prodding, admitted that his investigation into me had yielded absolutely nothing. "You're clean," he said, almost reluctantly, completely above board. "It's unusual, given what a mess," Clara insisted. Then he cleared his throat and revealed the kicker. "However," he continued, "during our routine background checks, we came across some rather peculiar discrepancies regarding MS, Clara's financial history. Nothing we were asked to look into, mind you, but it raised some red flags. We're talking about unusual asset transfers, unreported income streams, and shell corporations." He paused, looking directly at me. "It seems a mess. Clara might have some skeletons of her own, far more substantial than anything she was accusing you of." It was a perfect storm of cosmic irony. Clara's paranoia, her desperate need to prove me wrong, had led her own hired investigators to stumble upon her deep, dark secret. I looked at Mr. Davies, then down at the folder full of Grandma's meticulously gathered evidence, and a slow, cold smile spread across my face. "Mr. Davies," I said, my voice dangerously calm, "I believe I can help you connect those dots." I slid the folder across the table to him. He opened it, his eyes widening with each page. His initial discomfort morphed into professional awe, then something akin to grim understanding. The aftermath was, as you can imagine, an absolute shit show. Mr. Davies, now with concrete evidence in hand, presented his findings to Clara. She initially denied everything, then threatened him, then eventually broke down. Her world, built on a foundation of lies and deceit, crumbled around her. My lawyer took swift action. We presented the evidence to our parents, who were devastated and furious. Their golden child, exposed as a thief and a fraud. The shock, the betrayal, it ripped through our family like a wildfire. Other family members, those who had also been indirectly affected by Clara's schemes through the devaluation of communal assets, began to come forward with their own suspicions and grievances. Ultimately, Clara was forced to return every penny she had stolen, plus interest. The financial hit was immense, effectively wiping out her entire fortune and then some. She faced legal consequences, though I chose not to pursue criminal charges, primarily for our parents' sake. It was a deeply painful decision, but I felt she had suffered enough, and the public humiliation and financial ruin were punishment enough. Our relationship, of course, was irrevocably shattered. There was no coming back from that level of betrayal. She hated me, truly despised me, for exposing her, even though she was the architect of her own downfall. Our parents, while understanding why I did what I did, still mourned the loss of their perfect daughter, and the peace of mind they once had. The trust, by the way, was finally dispersed, after I alone decided how it would be used, investing it wisely for genuine future security. Looking back, it was a brutal ordeal. It cost me my sister, in every sense of the word, and it deeply scarred our family. But I sleep soundly knowing I honored Grandma's memory, that I protected what she intended, and that I stood up for myself against manipulation and deceit. Sometimes the truth hurts, but it's always, always worth it. So, like this video if you were on my side in this whole mess. Subscribe for more crazy stories like this one, because honestly, I've got a few more up my sleeve. And please share your final thoughts on this whole ordeal in the comments section below. What would you have done differently? Do you think I was too harsh, or did I do exactly what needed to be done? I'll see you all in the next story.